Today we're joined by Charity Mwiya, the former CEO of the Namibia Chamber of Commerce and Industry, or the NCCI, to discuss how Nujoma's policies influenced business growth and development in Namibia. Madam Mwiya, thank you so much for making time to join us.
Thank you very much for having me. Good afternoon to our listeners.
I think a good start to this conversation would be to talk about your impression of the man that we are both mourning and celebrating, a man who has left an incredible legacy for all of us to learn something from. And talk to us about the first time you encountered Dr. Sam Shafishuna Nujoma. What were the circumstances, and how did you feel, being in his presence?
Thank you very much. I think for a start, I would like to pay homage also to this great son of Africa, the man whose life we are celebrating, a rich legacy that he has left for us. And I would want us to believe that wherever he is, he should be looking down on us, so that definitely we are going to continue on the legacy that he has left us with. There are several encounters that I've had with the founding father, the father of the Namibian nation. But maybe one that really strikes me out, where I so much, whenever I look at the brand of his smile, there's so much that you have to talk about this smile. Yeah. This is a smile, in it encompasses a lot of things. It's a smile of authority, it's a smile of gentleness, it's a smile of authority, caring, all of that. But he was a man who had such a presence, and for me, I think he had such a character like my late father. He was very authoritarian, that if he walks into a room, you really feel the presence. And so in the beginning, the same Nujoma that we used to know when we were growing up and getting to know him, and when I had to actually first encounter him, it was a bit of a surprise. And to be very specific, I think it was in 2010. And at that time, Namibia was preparing to go and participate at the World Expo in Shanghai. Yeah. And so as a chamber, we were preparing the only reason we had to participate was to ensure that at least we can take some products there to China. And one of the products that we wanted to take there was our meat products. Yeah. And Namibia at the time was still in negotiations with China in terms of a market entry entry of that meat there. And so I think there was a misunderstanding, and the Chinese initially, they didn't want our meat to actually go there. And so at the time, my predecessor, Tara, was the CEO then. So then I had to push him. I said, well, if we are not allowing our products to go, then there's no point for us to go and continue to participate. At the time, our founding father was also invited as a guest speaker, by the Communist Party of China at the time to coincide with the World Expo. And so he was very sure that he was going to go with the business delegation. And it was his brand of making sure that when he goes around, he really promotes Namibian businesses. So then we sounded out, to the people at his office that, they're not allowing our meat to go, so we will not be going. So for him, he also felt that it was very important. Why would he, have gone without the business community? Yeah. And so then, secretly, I wrote to the former Chinese ambassador, then was actually a commercial attaché there. And then I wrote a very strong letter to them. And then, so I think, and I copied in the ambassador then. She was a female ambassador then. And then she saw that. So I think then there was a meeting that was called very urgently. I was home. I remember when I was called that morning, very early in the morning, Tara calls me, say, Charity, get up very soon. We have to meet at the founding father's residence. And in my mind, I thought maybe it's because of that email that I sent. I'm in trouble. Yeah. And, because it was early in the morning, so I had to still take my bath and really rush to go there. So I was really the last one to get there. I remember when I got there at his residence, there was the Shishi at the time, he was the PS of agriculture, and Tara and the veterinary officials were already there. And I was the last one now to get in there. So I was so afraid. Then I get there, he stands up. He used to refer to me as Mwiya. He never called me by my first name. I said, welcome, Mwiya. And President Nujoma stood and he served me tea. Wow. Literally poured the tea in the cup, asked me how many sugars I want, and he handed me over the tea. So, and even Tara made a joke of that, said, oh, you're so special, you had to actually even be served tea. So that was the gentle side, really, of President Nujoma. But then also in my time there at the chamber as well, there were many areas where I would be called. I remember even when President Kenneth Kaunda actually came, I also was called there at his residence. And there he was actually asking in terms of our trade relations with Zambia, what were the issues that we wanted to look at as a chamber. Yeah. And I was called there. Again, that was another encounter where I had to, he actually called me, come, we take pictures. pictures. I had to take pictures with them, both inside the house and outside the residence. So this is the man that we talk of, and at every encounter with him, there was never any level of mediocrity. You would find that whenever he speaks, whether it is at his birthday parties, President Sam Nujoma would always speak about, the vision for Namibia, about Africa's integration. He was very passionate. If there was one man who understood the value of what a Namibian citizen should be like, that is President Nujoma, because he believed that every Namibian should actually be empowered, skilled, to be able to contribute to the development of this country. And that is exactly what he stood for. And in all of this, he spoke a lot about unity, that there's no way we can develop this country without actually being a united force. And that is really something that I would always treasure in terms of his legacy, that as Namibia, if we really want to develop this country, we need to start as a starting point. Unity is very, very important for us.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I spoke to Dr. Kaidem Bwende yesterday, and one of the things that he brought up was that, he was an incredible negotiator. I guess maybe that explains how the beef got to China.
Exactly. He was very, very instrumental in that. I think really credit should go to him because he started during his time there. He was a very staunch advocate of ensuring that Namibia becomes really an export country and not really being more of an import country. And that is why even the theme of the Vision 2030, of which he's actually, the founder or the crafter, the initiator of that, it's very clear, where it is clearly stating that, Namibia needs to be industrialized, but that industrialization needs to actually be done by its own resources, its human resources, using our own resources. And that is why, even on onset, he was very practical in terms of really telling Namibians that anybody can do it. Yeah. First, ensuring that Namibians are skilled. So institutions of higher learning from, kindergarten up, that was his policy. We need to educate the Namibian child. We need to skill our own people. And that is why even in his old age, he went to university to get his master's in geology. He was setting the example that definitely everybody can actually do it, because as a country, if you do not have the skills, how will you be able to actually develop your own country? Then now that comes in terms of the role of the chamber. What did we do in terms of that now? When we got to see that, okay, these are the policies. First of all, as a chamber, we were advocating for policies that were conducive to the business environment. The administration of the time, I think from independence until now, has been very consultative, at least to a certain degree. So when policies are put in place, the chamber would actually always be, involved and approached to make sure that we give in our inputs. And if you look even within the development plans that have been over the years, the chamber had its own had inputs. When it comes to the national budget, they ensured that we were also actually involved, so that we know which do we think are the priority sectors that we see as a private sector. Now, unfortunately, during my tenure, I took, I've been at the chamber for a very long time in managerial positions. But when I took over as a CEO, that was the time that Namibia now was hit with the recession, COVID came, and all of that. Now, you can imagine which were the key sectors that were very important at the time of COVID. It was the logistics sector. It was very, very critical at the time, because otherwise everything else would not actually be able to be transported, make sure that we take care of our lives of people. Now, because of the policies that we already set, ensuring that Namibia has the proper infrastructure, reliable infrastructure, we were able to make sure that we actually withstand the test of time during those times.
Would you say that the late founding president always had an open door policy, and also was very open-minded when it came to whatever ideas that you brought forth to him, saying, look, this is what we're looking at. We would like to get your thoughts around it. How was he around, being approached with new ideas, and as far as, improving the economy or, putting Namibian business out there was concerned?
No, he was very open, that I can say. And I think that openness, I, for one, picked it up already even before I started working at the chamber. Look, on the side, I would say, remember, I somehow come also from the royal family. At the time when there was issues in the Caprivi, they let Chief Nariswani, the older man. I remember I used to stay by my uncle, one of his sons here in Windhoek. And President Nujoma, he would actually have meetings with these people. He would actually fly these chiefs there and then have meetings with them at night. First consultation at grassroots level. So when it came to the business community as well, there was a process whereby, he understood the importance of really consulting with the business community. So he was really at the forefront of ensuring that Namibia also had a united private sector voice. He was a strong supporter of the establishment of a united chamber in Namibia. As a matter of fact, that's why he even pushed to advocate that the chamber actually had its own building where it could actually operate from. So in there, he was, I think even within the think tanks that were there, whatever, that was his consultative approach. There were structures that were put beyond the political structures there, but outside there within government, and where he had to be inclusive of people that were beyond the party structures to ensure that people can bring in their inputs to all these developmental issues. So within the chamber, I think that process was there. From grassroots level, where he ensured that at the local authority levels, we as a chamber have also established branches at the local levels so that these can be able to engage the local leadership at the grassroots level and give in their inputs to developmental issues that really affect the business community as well. And then when it comes to policy as well, through a policy that were there as well, whether it's legislation as well, we as a chamber also had, committees that would establish, that would engage the lawmakers, that would engage the different ministries at specific levels to ensure that the private sector's voice is also included in the decision-making process when it comes to lawmaking and policies that really affected the business community.
Absolutely. Yeah. Now, in the many conversations that we've had with other individuals as well, he was also the commander, of plan, and, it takes strategy. And in the same way, business is almost also like a space where welfare is being waged, but in a very, without where, guns are not, involved, but strategy is very important.
Absolutely.
in the business world. What practical lessons can business leaders learn from Dr. Sam Nujoma and how he went about business in terms of governing the country and making sure that everyone did feel that they have a place in this country and could have their say? But as far as business is concerned, what can business leaders learn from his character?
I think he had a very inclusive approach to start with. He also advocated for integrity and accountability. He was a man who was not afraid to fire you if he needed to. There was reason to. And he really advocated for productivity, that Namibians needed to be very disciplined and they have to make sure that we have actually a productive nation. So in the private sector, I think quite a number of businesses, I think they're really trying in terms of doing that. Of course, we have got laws sometimes that becomes a little bit difficult when it comes to the business community in terms of how you can really instill discipline among people, because then obviously as a democratic country, you've got the unions that may come actually with their own interest. Yes. But I think it's very important that we as a country really look at the issue of productivity, discipline and accountability. That is really very key, and I think President Sam Nujoma advocated that in every platform. And he said the unity, that it is important. The moment you leave one sector of a society, and I remember that, the former president of the NCCI, Sventime, like Caesar, to quote him, he always say that if we do not take people off the streets, the people will take us to the streets. So that approach, I think, within the private sector, we have actually been advocating for that as in my time at the chamber. While the business community, I think, needs to be, in terms of inclusivity.
Yeah.
When you make it in business, how else are you pulling the others? When you've been given an opportunity yourself, what else are you doing yourself in terms of bringing actually the others that are really starting up with their own footsteps, that are really having baby steps? And I think that is what Sam Nujoma would want actually us to see, that you make sure that this house is really inclusive of every Namibian. Every Namibian must feel the value of being a citizen of this country and not really being left out.
Perhaps if you may, we know that Sam Nujoma and the founding leaders of the Republic of Namibia had this daunting task of uniting people from different ethnic groups, and the black people, of course, the African people, were disenfranchised because of the apartheid regime. And one can only imagine that the business industry at that time, or the business sector at that time, was predominantly white. So was there ever an experience where you can perhaps talk about how he worked around to say, look, we also need to get the previously disenfranchised or disadvantaged people also into business? How did he play that balancing act because there must have been some resistance as well from people who felt that, well, in this new republic, they might take our business away, but they didn't want to give a share of what was already available of the as far as the business cake is concerned. Talk to us about that, if you may, maybe also from a personal experience.
I think, as you say, he was a strategist, as and from onset, I think there were specific issues where maybe instances where I could actually pinpoint and say, look, it was him really picking up, particular individuals and say, look, these ones deliberately, I would take decisive decisions to make sure that opportunities are vouched to them as black businesses because they're capable of doing that. And then, of course, I think, as I always say that, we have to emulate what the white business community actually doing. I do not believe that if you look at the white business community, there's always a legacy. If you look at Pep Kovic, he's no longer here, but his businesses are still flourishing. Absolutely. What is wrong with the black people? If today, you've got a person, whether it's Chico, it's the Namunjepos, or it's the Liakias, they're building businesses. How do we ensure that those businesses, beyond their lives, those businesses can still continue to really flourish in Namibia? And I think we also have a problem within our own black communities. Are we supporting each other? Whether these opportunities are vowed to us, are we really supporting in support of each other? I'm yet to see a charity bumble group of companies as odd, ever, and list. I'm yet to see that. Why are we not trusting each other if opportunities are vowed to us? Look, we have opened up our economy to other investors, and these investors come in as conglomerates. They come in as partners, as joint ventures, or whatever else. Yes, we have put policies where we are saying that, look, if you are coming in here, the investment bill that is already taking longer, so we're pushing for it. We've been pushing out for it as a chamber since 2009. That's when we started actually initiating to make sure that we see the change in this policy. And there's been consultation after consultation. And I think it is important to ensure continuity, that whenever we change, any political head there, we are very clear what was left when this person actually left it, and we make sure that we continue and speed up in terms of speeding up implementation of our policies. Because when we delay those, it's difficult for business to actually make decisions as well. So President Sam Nujoma was a doer, was somebody who made sure that, he holds people accountable. Something must be done, and we have to make sure that by this particular time it's actually done. And I think that zeal needs to actually be, that's the kind of leadership that we want to see, where people are held accountable, but we have to make sure that as a nation, we have to really work together. Absolutely. There is no way we're going to build this country if there is this issue of us and them, the gender, the racial and tribal. If a resource is found in Zambezi region, that resource belongs to Namibians. It does not belong to Zambesians only. So we must allow those people that have got the skills, that have got the resources, the means to come and venture and make sure that we are able to do that. Now, inclusivity, I think in that space, we really need to still work a little bit much harder. Yeah. And for me, really, I think I was telling, and I just hope we're going to be having now the first female president actually coming here. And as a motherly heart, my appeal has really been that maybe we need to really look at some of these structures that we have in Namibia, in the country, that maybe somehow, if we look at that, we can be able to have so much inclusivity. Why is it that just because I'm from the Zambezi, you need a CEO must be from the Zambezi region, a CRO from a mayor must be, a CEO must be from the Zambezi region, a governor must be from the Zambezi region. At this point in time where the president has authority to appoint governors, we will need to be inclusive. If you take me to Hobabis, I know nobody there. I'm going to work because I have got a contract that tells me what I'm supposed to do, and I'll just do what I'm supposed to do. You take me to Katima, Bambus comes, he was my junior at school, it happens. Yeah. Who is he to come and tell me what? And we have this familiarization, and I think that is what is really clearing our productivity. Government's policies really, and the policies that Nujoma has pushed for, they are good. But in terms of really implementation, we really need the right kind of mindset. And we really need that integration to be able to push these things actually to happen. Absolutely. And if we are still going to be doing that, you are a charity, you are from the Zambezi, you grow up there, you go to school there, you work there, and you die there, then we're not going to actually have the full integration that this great son of the soul actually has been advocating for. If you look at Sam Nujoma, I remember even the times when he started, there was a time that he had a trip to China, and he took actually some of the traditional leaders to China. Why did he do that? In all the missions, most of the missions that he undertook when he was president, he set that precedence of making sure that, through the chamber, organized business are also taken, along. because, you know, some nations, for example, China, they respect political hierarchy. And he made sure that if you go there, by the fact that you were actually in a presidential mission, it didn't really matter at what level of entrepreneurship, whether you're an SME or what, as an NCCI, we avowed those opportunities so that Namibians can be able to get investors. But those investors have to work with Namibians. Absolutely. Because that's what our vision says. We need to work, the Namibians must champion the development of this country. And we need to pay attention to ensure that we support Namibian businesses.
All right.
Yes.
Charity Mwiya, thank you so much for your time. Unfortunately, we've run out of time, but thank you so much for sharing some very personal memories as well, in terms of your personal life and also in your business life as well. And as far as the founding president is concerned, highly appreciated.
Thank you very much.
All right, that was Charity Mwiya, the former CEO of the Namibia Chamber of Commerce and Industry, also just sharing her memories as well of the founding president. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.